Okay, so you are a high-powered executive. Maybe you're even a president, CEO, or perhaps even the chairman of your company. You haven't really looked for a job in years, maybe even decades. You have a huge network. You've kind of always found your next opportunity organically. And you really don't know or even believe inside that you're going to be back in the job market one day. But you're getting called all the time by recruiters. Now, is there value in spending the time and making an investment in building that relationship with a long-term recruiter? I think there is, and as a buddy of mine who was a top producer in the insurance industry once said, you don't want to be looking for an insurance agent when your house is on fire. So I'm going to give you 10 top reasons why there's a tremendous benefit in having that long-term relationship with the right type of recruiter. And if you think this is potentially valuable for you in the future, hop on board and let's go. Welcome to the Dream Job America podcast. I'm your host, Tim Tonella, and we talk about all things hiring with a specific emphasis on strategies, tools, and tactics for finding your next dream job. Now, today we're going to talk about something that's very close to my heart because it involves the recruiting industry and the question of whether it makes sense to invest your time and energy, particularly if you're a busy, high-powered exec with a lot of people, pulling your strings to get you to do different things. Is there value in building a long-term relationship when you're actively not looking and really in your heart of hearts, you're not sure you're ever going to be looking again? So what's the benefit of doing that? We're going to start off by reviewing 10 of the top reasons why I think there's extreme value in building that relationship over the long term. Now, before we start, I do want to quantify what I mean by recruiting. I'm only going to talk about the situation that I'm in particular, which is running what we call a retained executive search firm. So companies come to us, they pay us fees in advance to launch private confidential searches, usually for executives at the C level or VP level and sometimes the director level. That's where we come into play. There's contingency recruiters and all different types of models, but we're going to focus on retained executive search for the purposes of our discussion today. So let's roll into those really quickly. And we're going to make this fast like speed dating. Number one, retained executive recruiting firms like ours are engaged to run confidential private searches. So in many cases, these searches are extremely confidential because they may be a replacement search of a certain person in a leadership role, and that individual may not even know they're going to be replaced. So confidentiality is going to be very important. Moreover, a lot of times companies do not want to signal to the marketplace that they're making a move that can be perceived as a strategic disadvantage. So confidentiality is going to be very important. So for you out there who are potentially looking for an opportunity one day, these are not the types of roles that you're going to find in the public. Again, we've been hired for the purpose of conducting a private search where they're tapping our network to go out and find the best players. So those types of positions, which we say are found only in the unpublished market, would be potentially available to you if you have that inside track with a partner at a strong retained executive search firm. Number two, retained executive recruiters can provide tremendous market insight for you, particularly in a moment of crisis. I've always said that everybody should have a strong connection in their contact base to somebody who's an attorney, somebody who's a doctor, somebody who's in the insurance sector, and certainly somebody who is in the recruiting sector. In many cases, there's a macroeconomic issue that will cause a company to do a RIF, cause individuals to lose their positions. There can be specific company-related issues that even you as a leader may not be aware. There could be a pending acquisition. You could run out of financing. Or there's a lot of interpersonal reasons for why things don't happen. Things were wonderful. You get a new boss. All of a sudden, that relationship is terrible. And what seemed like a great fit is no longer a great fit. Or in many cases, you have a personal issue related to somebody in your family, maybe a parent, maybe a spouse gets ill, and you're going to have to make a change, and you need to talk to someone. Look at the case of the pandemic that just happened or the financial meltdown that happened in the Great Recession 10 years ago and look at what's potentially going to happen over the next 10 to 24 months given the Federal Reserve rate hikes and what that could potentially do to a recession and similar layoffs. When these crises happen, you want to be able to call somebody that's got the pulse on the market, somebody who can give you some very solid advice, who really understands the industry from the ground floor and is deeply rooted and connected. It's kind of like a get out of jail free trump card that you have for later on that you never know when you're going to pull. I can tell you, I built relationships with people and they've called me 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road when they had an unforeseen issue affect their life. And I tell you, they were never more happy that they had put in the groundwork to build that relationship. So when they did make the call to someone like me or another partner at another firm, that person would gladly pick up the phone and spend time and commit to them, even when they may be super busy and have a lot of other people pulling at them for information. Number 3, executive recruiters are very good at helping people do career planning. You consider what we do for a living. We talk to board members, we talk to CEOs and company leaders about their strategies, where they want to go with the business, and what types of folks that they're going to want to help build and grow their businesses over the future. So we're a great resource, specifically if we're in a certain type of vertical, like the business that we run. We specialize in early stage, institutionally backed technology companies. These are companies that are primarily funded by private equity firms and venture capital firms. So we're very knowledgeable at what the DNA of the candidates these companies are going to look for. And if you're trying to build a career in that area, you like early stage companies, you like the idea of maybe getting lucky, participating in a company that has a big equity payout one day, maybe it gets bought by a PE firm, maybe it goes public, you never really know. Having a connection to someone who can help you not only build a resume, but tell a story and kind of position yourself so you fit in really well into that area is extremely valuable. And there's no one better than an executive recruiter because they're on the ground floor every day. Number 4, executive recruiters are excellent at helping you prepare for your next job search. I can't tell you how many times an executive calls me up and says, hey, I'm going to be back in the market. I haven't looked for a while. Would you review my resume for me? Would you check out my cover letter for me? Do you have any insights in what I should be doing now to position myself to get the types of jobs that I'm hoping to get over the next couple months? That insight is tremendous. And we spend a lot of time, if we have a deep relationship with a person, giving them advice and really helping to mold their positioning, not only for the jobs that we have, but for jobs that other recruiters may have or other opportunities that the executive is going to discover through their internal networking efforts. So one of the reasons I started this channel was to be able to provide insights and guidance to executives and really all people, not just executives, even though that's the area that I come from, but to be able to give them the various tools and tactics that they can use to be more effective than the average bearer who's just starting from scratch or hasn't looked in a long time. Number 5, a strong, high-end executive retained recruiter can provide additional visibility and credibility for you. If we're really at the top of our game and we've built relationships with CEOs and board members, and they trust us because of the working relationship and the success that we've helped them with their portfolio companies or their individual companies over time, then one phone call to that company referencing a certain candidate has the potential to get them an instant interview. So even if maybe you're an up-and-comer and you haven't built that really powerful network, but you get on the radar screen of a really strong partner at a retained executive search firm, then they're able to help add that credibility to you and get you that audience to be able to get for several years down the road. Number 6, strong executive recruiters have very, very deep networks, and those networks could potentially be of benefit to you. There's just almost no way the average executive is going to have a network larger than a partner who's been in the business in executive recruiting for 10, 20 years. I mean, we'll take me as an example, just as an example for the purpose of this video. At this point in time, I have 20,000 connections on LinkedIn that are almost 100% company founders of tech companies, presidents, CEOs, and private equity and venture capital investors. My firm has a private network of over 70,000 people in the ecosystem. Our other partners have very large networks. And then we have all the clients that we've worked with over the years that we've either hired for or even helped them get their next jobs. And so that network is really, really powerful. And people call us for things beyond just the next job. And this is another benefit in building that relationship, really building a relationship with anybody that's at the top of their game in a space. People believe me, people call me for the craziest things. Tech company CEOs have called me before and said, look, I'm looking for a thought leader in a space. I've got some questions we're trying to deal with at our company, and you have these great clients, and maybe one of them would spend some time with me. I can make one phone call, and in most cases, they'd be willing to spend that time and do that for the person. People have called us to build partnership relationships, strategic partners for their companies. So there's many reasons why somebody who has a deep network is valuable, and the recruiting industry and the partners within are extremely strong in that regard, and a fantastic benefit if you can dovetail off of that experience and those connections by building a deep relationship over the long term. Number 7 is negotiation support. I don't know how many jobs you've had in your career, even if you've had a lot, which could be like 10. You certainly haven't had the amount that a partner at an executive search firm has. I mean, I've been involved just personally in over 730 executive placements at the C-level and VP. Some of our other partners have been involved in over 1,000. And those are just the number of candidates that we ultimately placed, the candidates that we actually worked with that didn't work out. Maybe we were negotiating multiple contracts with them. Maybe they fell out of the process. But helping to negotiate contracts is a very, very big deal. And being able to dovetail off of that experience with a recruiter is super important. We've seen so many use cases that in many cases when an offer is made to a candidate and it's not exactly what they want, and they're starting to feel like emotionally depressed and maybe even upset about it, there's a lot of different things that we can pull from to potentially restructure that agreement and bring both parties together to get the deal done in a very positive light. The other benefit of having a relationship is that it doesn't matter whether the recruiter is placing you and helping to negotiate that deal for you specifically. In many cases, people will call us where they're not using a recruiter at all. They may be a CEO of a company that's looking to make a job, to take a job at another company, for example. They could be working with another recruiter, or they could just be doing it on their own. They could work with the board directly, or maybe they, through a network connection, built a relationship directly with that company, and now they're negotiating an offer, and they're not really sure, like, is this really a good offer? Is this kind of what's happening in the marketplace? What have what has the recruiter seen out there through the hundreds of placements that they've made? What does the compensation look like? What are some ways that we can structure the agreement that doesn't hurt the company, but also ameliorates some of my concerns as a candidate? So don't think of that relationship as just, I'm looking for a job and that person is going to help me with a specific placement that they're making. Look at it as, look, this person is an information source, a wealth of knowledge that has seen all types of transactions and all types of deals. And if they're my friend and they have a relationship with me, then they're willing to commit that time to helping me accomplish what I need to do, whether I'm actively working with them or not. Number 8, and this one I can't understate, is confidentiality. When you are in a leadership role and you're thinking, I'm not sure if this is going to be the right environment for me for the long term. Maybe I feel like it's time to turn that page. Maybe I'm reading the tea leaves, or maybe I'm seeing something in the macro environment. The last thing you want to do is start testing the waters and have somebody find out about it and then come back to you and feel like you're potentially being disloyal. And so our whole business is derived around confidentiality. So if you have that relationship with a high-end executive recruiter who you know is going to protect your own anonymity, then you can pick their brain, ask for advice. They may even be able to do kind of soft feelers out there without ever sharing your identity with anybody. And number 9 is long-term career support. As I said, no matter what you feel today about where you're at in your environment, you have no idea what that's going to look like 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road, let alone tomorrow, right? Things can absolutely change I spent over 400 hours in 2022 doing private coaching at night with CEOs and founders of tech companies on long-term strategic planning for what they're going to do next. And if you have a long-term relationship and a friendship with that type of recruiter, then you can call them 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road, and they're going to be willing to help you think strategically. Now, in many cases, because we are looking, when we do recruiting at the leadership level, we're looking at kind of the arc of a person's career. We're looking at the total storyline and how they have built methodically steps to position themselves so they're in a high-level position and they can achieve the highest type of earning potential as well as the highest amount of responsibility and opportunity based on their own individual needs. And so talking to someone early on that you have that relationship with who can give you the kind of a framework for how you should be positioning yourself over the long term is one of the most beneficial things, in my opinion, that you could ever do. And of course, I came from the corporate world. I hired a lot of recruiters, and I built relationships with many, and I felt that that was very, very valuable in helping me think about the steps that I should be taking so that if I want to make a change down the road, I'm kind of locked and loaded and on the right path. And number 10, not to be understated, partners at retained executive search firms in many cases are super interesting people. And I say that not because I'm a recruiter, because I worked with a lot of them in the past as a client. And the partners at these firms have built relationships and they kind of move in and out of an ecosystem of other people that are extremely successful at the top of their game. They're the movers and shakers in their various industries. And people at that level tend to be very well educated. They have strong cultural experiences. And they're just kind of fun people to be around. They share a wealth of experiences. And just from a personal standpoint, it's really neat to build relationships with people like that, just as friendships. So that's my personal observation. And I would suggest that that's an opportunity for you as well. So to wrap this up, again, listen, I understand, because I deal with clients just like you all the time. You're a high-powered business executive. There's a barrage of people that are vying for your time, not just people at your own company, but people that are inundating you through email and LinkedIn and phone calls. Everybody wants to get on your radar screen because you're an important person and they want to do a business transaction with you. But you can pick and choose who you want to work with. And again, I would suggest that there's no one better to build a relationship with than a partner at a retained executive search firm, because I will guarantee you probably will have to make a career change at a certain point in time, and 50-50 shot that change is going to come unexpectedly. And you want to have somebody who's really knowledgeable in the space, who's also willing to take your call, somebody that you treated very well, who has a personal relationship, who's very, very busy, but when you make that phone call, boom, you go to the top of that list because of that history. That's going to be a huge return on investment for you and certainly worth it down the road. Now, if you want to build a relationship with somebody or make that connection, you can go to my website at www.america/network, and you can sign up for my private network where I'm going to have emails from time to time, information about what's happening in the job market, insights and tactics that will be in addition to the things that you're going to see on my YouTube channel, Dream Job America. Additionally, if you are considering making a career change, you can download my 4-step job preparation guide at www.dreamjobamerica/guide, and that's going to give you a ground floor look at all the different things that you need to be thinking about and doing to prepare yourself to conduct an effective job search in half the time. So again, you can look at the show notes, the podcast notes. There's 2 hyperlinks to each one of those. And I hope this was valuable for you today. If you think it was, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I want to continue to grow this. And of course, if there's any content, any videos that you'd like me to make, maybe you're hitting a roadblock, maybe there's something that you would like for more information on, please list that in the comments section below, and we'll try to make a video about it for you. So until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy